Friends, please note that now right to recall name is becoming known amongst the masses, and leaders are now being pressurized by their activists to talk about right to recall, so they have to forcefully talk about right to recall. But anti-commons do not really want right to recall procedures. They do not care if the country sells to multinational companies and 99% of the people are looted. All they care is themselves in reality. Since 85 years, people have been demanding procedures by which the common citizens can replace or punish the corrupt and procedure to make a transparent complaint procedure. Transparent means that the complaint which is visible and verifiable anywhere, anytime and by anyone, so that no neta, no babu, no judge or no media can suppress the complaint. But the anti-recallists have been suppressing this demand. For this they have certain techniques, and anti-recallists or pseudo-recallists have some signs, some of which I will tell now. First sign of anti-recallists: they discourage their activists and others from talking about drafts, even reading drafts. Forget writing drafts. Draft reading and writing is not the job of the lawyers, not of the judges, not of the MPs, but of the citizens. Yes, you, the common citizens, have to give the drafts to the MPs, who then pass the drafts. Lawyers do not have job of making drafts, their job is to fight cases. Judges do not have job of making drafts, their job is to make judgments. Anti-recallists discourage others by engaging activists in activities which will not reduce corruption, like social activities like running schools, yoga teaching, practicing, shouting slogans against opposition parties or other politicians, campaigning for a candidate to win the elections, character building, etc. etc. But they do not tell the activists to read the drafts, forget discussing them. So start reading drafts and discussing drafts and make comments on drafts, quoting the clauses. And after reading some drafts and making comments, you will be able to write drafts even. If common citizens start doing this job, no one will be able to make false laws and statements. Second sign of anti-recallist is that anti-recallist and pseudo-recallist never do proper comparison and analysis. This they do so along with some technical jargon. The other person gets confused and demoralized and does not read the draft and discuss the draft. And they always do one-sided discussion. Please do ask them to make comparison for a given scenario for the present procedures and then for the law draft they prefer, and then for right to recall and other drafts. Please compare these procedures and see whether they are beneficial or harmful for the country. For example, pseudo-recallists often say that crores of people under right to recall procedures can be easily bought, but they never compare it with today's or their favorite procedures, because in those procedures there are only a few people to buy for the multinationals to control the administration of our country. They say that those few people will never be bought, but crores of common people can be bought, even though there is safeguard provision that anyone can cancel his or her approval any day, and due to this provision, giving money to these people will be useless for MNCs, etc. Third sign of anti-recallist: they always say they support right to recall, but never tell right to recall over which position. Right to recall over Sarpanch, Corporator, Mayor or Prime Minister, or Lokpal or Chief Minister. Ask them to specify over which position they want right to recall and ask them to give the draft of that. We would like to bring right to recall over major positions like Chief Minister, Prime Minister, Lokpal, etc. as soon as possible. To end the damage the lack of right to recall procedures over major position can cause to the country. Fourth sign of anti-recallist: they say they support right to recall but will bring it later. Later maybe next life. Some of the excuses for bringing later is: first excuse, no, government will not pass it. Ask them, do you want to go according to the wishes of government or according to the wishes of crores of people? And is government stopping you from adding these clauses to your manifesto and supporting them? Second excuse which they make is, all procedures cannot come at the same time. Tell them that people do not want to wait for 50 to 100 years for all reforms to come. If transparent complaint procedure comes, all reforms can come in a few months' time. Please see this transparent complaint procedure in www.righttorecall.info/405.pdf. The third excuse of the anti-recallists is, our unity will break. Tell them we want unity, that is why we are asking to add these clauses of democratic procedures to the draft. And if they want unity, why do not they promote transparent complaint proposal procedure which will help in unifying the people of the country? Their fourth excuse is, we will choose the MPs and bring them to power, who will then bring the right to recall drafts and laws. Ask them how they expect the public servants, the MPs, the ministers, the Prime Minister, to allow the public to dominate them. After coming to power, they will take bribes from multinationals, deposit the bribes in foreign secret accounts and dump right to recall procedures. These right to recall procedures can come only when crores of public masters, the citizens of the country, pressurize and force the public servants, the MPs, the ministers, Prime Minister to sign and bring these laws. Therefore, they should ask the MPs or their party or organization to put the drafts of right to recall MP etc. right to recall laws and procedures in their manifesto. Fifth sign of anti-recall is they will say to support an individual who will bring the drafts, and they ask not to make any comments on the public work of the public figure they like, as they feel that will defame that public figure. Please tell that draft is our leader. Without drafts, no change in system is possible, either good or bad. So ask them to either support or oppose the draft. Ask them to introduce the draft, our leader, to their leader and ask their leader whether he or she supports the draft or opposes the draft. We do not say personal comments against anyone like XYZ character is like that or XYZ father is like that, etc. We are only commenting on the public work, whether it is dishonest or honest, just as people comment on public work of a road supervisor. Now if you say do not comment on public work of the road supervisor, you are firstly not doing your duty as a citizen and secondly stopping us from doing also, which is disastrous for the country. Is it not partiality if I comment on public servants not related to me or whom I do not like and avoid commenting on public servants I like or related to me? Is the country more important or the individual? Sixth sign of anti-recallists is they will say they support right to recall but never do anything for supporting that or getting it implemented. Ask them to write in their profile name demands RTR-lokpal or demands RTR by citizens etc. Ask them to distribute pamphlets about these procedures. For procedures see www.righttorecall.info/405.pdf. Or ask them to make an ad in newspaper asking their leader, MPs, etc. to clarify their stand on procedures drafts of right to recall and add these clauses to their drafts or manifestos. And ask them to tell their group members about right to recall procedure drafts. Ask them to ask their leaders to add the right to recall procedures in their manifestos or add it to their drafts they are supporting. And ask them to show what they are doing to get these procedures implemented. Seventh sign of anti-recallists is anti-recallists or pseudo-recallists will try to engage you in useless draftless discussion and waste your time which you can use in informing drafts to others. Just refuse to talk on useless time-wasting draftless discussions. Ask the anti-recallist or pseudo-recallist to read the draft first, give him or her the link of the draft and tell them even illiterate can understand the draft. And tell them to quote the clauses while commenting. Eighth sign of anti-recallist is anti-recallist or pseudo-recallist talk hours and hours on problems of the country but never talk a minute on solutions and never give the drafts which will reduce poverty, corruption, etc. They might give some proposals. Ask them to give the drafts for their proposals which will solve the burning problems of the country like poverty, corruption, because government has lakhs of employees and these employees need instructions or drafts to implement the proposals. Proposals are as good as bad as their drafts. Ninth sign of anti-recallist is many anti-recallists or pseudo-recallists will not take a proper stand whether they support or oppose right to recall drafts which benefits crores of people or other drafts which favors only a few people like multinational companies etc. Example, they do not tell whether they support or oppose RTR-lokpal with no right to recall by citizen drafts or whether they support or oppose with right to recall by citizens draft. This they do because they have their own interest. Example, some sponsor who is helping them will stop sponsoring them if they say they support right to recall RTR-lokpal or other right to recall procedures. And if they tell they oppose right to recall procedures, they will be exposed as anti-people or anti-common. So they give vague answers and do not take a stand. Never proceed in a discussion without clearing the stand of the anti-recallist, as such discussions will be waste of your time you can use in spreading information to other citizens about right to recall procedures. And once a person takes a stand, proceed in discussions, asking them to quote the draft and the clauses of the draft. 10th sign of anti-recallists is anti-recallists many times claim that the recall procedures are impractical or unconstitutional or cause instability. Ask them which procedure they are referring to first of all, and quote which clause is unconstitutional and which clause of the Constitution needs amendment. Ask them which clause of the proposed recall procedure is impractical, And how is it impractical? Is it impractical because people will not be able to take that much bribes any longer? Or it cannot be implemented? And which clauses cannot be implemented? Ask them if they are talking about signature based recall system where the persons have to give their signatures, or appearance based recall system where the person has to appear before the collector to give complaint or register himself or herself as candidate, and before the patwari or village officer to give his or her yes or no. Please ask them to give the full scenario, explaining their claim, quoting the drafts and clauses. 11th sign of anti-recallist is most recallists are biased towards the corporates. They want different rights and rules for the corporates and common citizens. The corporates make work agreements with at-will termination clause, meaning they do not have to give any proof. At-will means the employer is free to discharge individuals for good cause or bad cause or no cause at all. Further, there is a probation period in which the employer can expel the employee anytime without any reason. But the proof buggers, those who want proof, want to apply their proof theory only when the rights of common citizens are talked about. They say it is unethical to expel someone without proof. But they very conveniently avoid this point when the rights of corporates is talked about. That time they say it is ethical not to give proof and expel the employee. Is this not plain discrimination? Is this not unconstitutional? We, the common citizens, demand equal rights as the rights of the corporates. The corporates have the right to expel without any proof the employees, so we, the 120 crore common citizens, should also have the rights to expel our employees, the MPs, MLAs, judges, Lokpals, Prime Minister, Chief Minister, etc. without any proof. We, the 120 crore owners of the country, the common citizens, demand the right to recall without proof the public servants, the Prime Minister, Chief Minister, Lokpal, judges and other important officials whom we have employed to manage the country. 12th sign of anti-recallist. One more thing that anti-recallist and pseudo-recallist tell is that why should we give money in the form of tax, wealth tax, inheritance tax, customs duty, etc. to make the military more stronger? They think only about themselves rather than the country. Well, if they will not give these taxes, then the military, police, courts will not be able to protect the country and will not be able to stop foreign companies and other countries from enslaving us. And first of all, the rich and the elite will be looted. And then 99% of the wealth of the country will be looted. And if someone tries to protect their wealth, property, money, etc. with their own money, they will be spending much more money than what will be spent in collectively protecting the country's wealth. So both from ethical and from money point of view, the persons having more wealth, property and money should give more tax than those having less wealth. Now most anti-recallists or pseudo-recallists will stick to their stand, but some do convert into recallists on knowing the truth. But those persons who refuse to talk on drafts, refuse to take a stand, you should stop discussing with them further, as it is only waste of your precious time, time which can be utilized in giving information about right to recall procedures to others. Those persons should be told that we do not want to discuss with you as you are not doing duty of citizen even by not reading the draft. At least allow us and others to do this duty of a citizen. Please tell these things to as many people as possible to save the country from another slavery. Thank you.